Hello again, it's Rick Miracle with another book review in the series Freemasonry and Satanism. And why Freemasonry and Satanism? One, because when you study the morals and dogma and the other text of the Freemasonry books and pamphlets, and we know they have a lot of secrets. They even swear to keep their secrets secret with the threat of death. That's kind of a devilish thing, i.e. satanic. And then the Satanism, if you do any homework on witchcraft, occultic, and Kabbalah, and Rosicrucian, and all the other occults, the symbolisms, the gods, pyramids, stars, all-seeing eyes, all appear to be involved in all of these different fraternities, lodges, groups, cults, cabals, secret organizations, behind the scenes, controlling the earth, controlling the people, causing the wars, making the movies in Hollywood. So anyways, this is a continuation of Lost Star of Myth and Time, video series number 56, video number 5. I'm going to try to make this the last one of this book. I've been beating myself up over this because if you go on the internet, Planet X, Nibiru, Herculambus, the Destroyer, there's all kinds of names. The Red Star, all kinds of names. I just got some pictures here. They talk about something coming through our solar system. And as you can imagine, here we are in harmony with the planets and the sun and space. Is the sun moving? Or does the sun just sit there? Well, the truth of the matter is, the answer is yes. The sun sits there and it moves. How's that? So what the sun does, it's in a galaxy. And let's say it's in this particular band, hypothetical. And as you can see by the band, it seems like everything is rotating. The band. So with the huge ball in the center, it looks like there's some kind of rotational thing going on. But let's say Earth is here with the planets, any one of these little stars. It travels with that band of rocks. So it stays in its position, so hence it doesn't move. But the whole thing is turning, so it does move. So I was thinking seriously about it. If the Earth, as they say, has a binary twin, and say it's this sun here, is it rotating this way, or is it orbiting this way? Well, when you look at this book, Lost Star, and they talk about the Golden Age, they're talking about a period in time, when the Earth, on our solar system, gets closer to the big yellow ball. So I think the orbit would be this way, traveling with the cloud of dust in the circle in the galaxy. So in other words, I made a little picture here. The galaxy turns, and I think if you look at the elliptical plane this way, the Earth and our sun right here on the top travels closer to and further away from the elliptic plane. So when you would have to cross the elliptic plane coming this way, and then when you go to the south, you'd have to cross it again. So when you cross the elliptic plane, so here's what the elliptic plane looks like when at the Grand Canyon I woke up when I was camping there, and I looked at the sky, and I saw that. I took a picture. This is not my picture. Quite an amazing thing to see. So here's an example where the sun is. You can see where they say the sun is. So I believe that the orbit is going closer to and further away from the galactic center, not this way. So just a thought when they talk about the intelligence or the consciousness, the perception, the growth of humanity when it gets closer to the galactic center. And when it gets further away. Just thought I'd explain that. As I was trying to think, is it orbiting sideways or is it orbiting towards the galactic plane, then below the ecliptic and coming back over and over? Just to make some sense out of this book. And knowing that the star system, and of course with the Planet X, they have all the stuff in the media of scary things like this happening. So inquiring minds want to know what's happening. Does the government know something we don't know? Is this the cause for all the insanity going on in the world? The underground cities, the wanting to reduce the population? So let me get back with this book here. So the period in time here appears to be 13,000 years ago was a golden age of light. So the question is this orbit of the sun going around a second sun a 13,000 year half cycle, which would be 26,000 years for a complete rotation, rising above the elliptic plane, traversing across that for 13,000 years, then rising below the elliptic plane, and then descending, moving away from the galactic center. So that's what they call the Golden Age. And apparently, as we looked before in this book, the people who wrote this book and the other people who theorize say that we're ascending now. So 13,000 years ago would have been up there, and the Dark Ages would have been probably here, and we're ascending now upwards in the Bronze. So humanity is starting to gain ground towards its golden age again. So do the experts believe this? So let's read some of this. Page 246. Even if the context of the anomalous object is known, what is a traditional archaeologist supposed to do when the context is absolutely unbelievable? In 1862, Scientific American reported on the discovery of an intricate vessel or pot found in Dorchester, Massachusetts. It came out of a huge piece of rock that had been blasted away at a construction site. Measuring 6.5 inches in diameter, 2.5 inches on the top, the vessel was decorated with symmetrical figures of flowers resembling zinc in color and was a composition of metal with a high silver content. The craftsmanship was equivalent to anything made by the finest jewelers in the 19th century, yet it came from 15 feet below the surface. To this day, no one has been able to identify the maker or the origin of the piece, but the rock has been identified as the Precambrian, thought to be 600 million years old. So they got more examples here. In 1891, Morrison Times, Pennsylvania, reported that a gold chain about 10 inches in length had been discovered embedded in a piece of coal. As the lump separated, the middle of the chain became loosened with each end remained fastened to the coal. In 1928, miners found several sections of a large block wall in an Oklahoma coal mine. Each block was made of 12-inch square polished stones. Since the coal was from the Carboniferous period, the blocks were integral to the coal. The wall must have been several 100 million years old. So they cite all these crazy things that are, as they call it, anomalies in this book. Get this book and read it. Of course, these days, I want to say, is there time to get this book and read it? Is something coming? And if you go on Zeta Talk, Zetatalk on the internet, Nancy Leader, I'm looking at the TV right now when I'm telling you this, has a video, Zeta Talk newsletter issue 431, January 4, 2015. She seems pretty serious about something coming into our solar system that's already here, another star apparently with some planets. So anyways, the obituary for the descending cycle, page 248. According to Yuktesqua, the peak of the last golden age occurred in the fall of 11,500 BC. So if you add 2,000 years to that, it's 13,500 years ago. When the autumnal equinox, the sun rose at the first point of the constellation Aries. Mankind was at its highest state of being, due principally to the sweet magnetic properties of the relatively close grand center, enfolding the earth and enriching man's consciousness and perception beyond imagination. Okay, let's get back and discuss it again. So what he's saying is if we are on the outer rim here, in one of these stars, and if we have an orbit that goes towards the galactic center, and then above the plane, and then below the plane, and back away, and going towards and back away, when it goes towards the galactic plane, and when it's near it, our consciousness is greater. Our abilities are greater. Our health is better. Mankind goes through a golden age. Is that true? We can say one thing. Archaeologists have been over there in the Sumerian, Mesopotamian area where the pyramids are, and getting the cuneiform tablets and Zacharias stitchings and interpreting this. And there's stuff on the internet about in 1983 that they discovered some with infrared cameras, some large body coming towards the earth. Now the other question is that raises is this body coming towards us, or are we going towards this other body? Is it orbiting us, or are we orbiting it? The scientists don't know. They'd like to tell you they know. They think they know. But if we were orbiting it, that would explain the yoga cycle, where we get closer to the grand center, to the golden age, and then when we do orbit it and go around it and start going away from the grand center, apparently mankind's consciousness gets more animalistic, less intelligent, less civilized. Anyways, up to page 249, many legends say that the earth experienced one or more great floods during the period between the height of the last golden age, 11,500 BC. So let's think about that for a second. You get to that point in time where mankind is at the peak, top of this cycle, the golden age, at the peak of the Kali Yuga cycle, which means we're closest to the galactic center, the big yellow ball. Well, if we do have an orbit going above the elliptic plane, the big straight line across this whole picture, When we approach it, we're going above it in a circle, and then when we get to the as close as we can to the yellow ball, we descend through the elliptic plane, and then go into the southern portion there, and start coming back 13,000 years later, and cross it again on the outside. So the theory is when you cross the elliptic plane, apparently it has some seriously strong magnetic properties, and it can be very destructive to the sun and the planet's magnetic fields, North Pole, South Pole, and can cause pole shifting. And if there's another body there, another sun, and it has a North Pole, South Pole, of course, it could cause some alterations of our poles. And Nancy Leader says, as well as other people, that we're supposed to have a pole shift that the planet Earth has had before. I hope all this is making sense. It took me a couple weeks since you look at the date, if you looked at the date of the last time I made part 4, I really had to research this and try to wrap my head around the reality of it, the thinking of these people. If they are scientists and our governments believe this is going to happen and they're preparing, what is happening and what should we know? So anyways, they say that the height of the Golden Age, 11,500 BC, 13,500 years ago, at the start of the Silver Age, or Tetra, around 6,700 BC, Plato pegs the sinking of Atlantis to the middle of this period. So if you take 67, 7 7 is 14, and 6 and 6 is 12 is 12, 13, 7. So it's half of the 13,000 year cycle is when they started the cause of the sinking of Atlantis. So would one say that when the Earth is orbiting on the north side of this elliptic plane, and it reaches a peak altitude, the highest point north on this plane, if it's orbiting, how high is it going to go before it descends and crosses through and goes to the bottom? When it reaches that cusp, does that cause some magnetic anomalies? And then when it crosses the plane, does that cause some magnetic anomalies? And then when it goes through the plane, 6,700 years later, and goes to its furthest south point, does that cause magnetic anomalies? And then when it comes to the furthest point away from the sun and crosses the elliptic plane again, does that cause some magnetic anomalies? So in a 26-year period, can you have 4 maximums, north and south, and close and furthest away from the galactic center? I'm just trying to think this through. And at those 4 points, like on Earth we have north and south and east and west, can those magnetic anomalies, gravitational pulls or pushers or pulls, I don't know, can they cause the destruction on Earth of earth crusting, mountain building, pole shifting, volcanoes? Do we go through debris fields, as you can see there, where see that there's a lot of rocks around that sun? When we are traveling in this orbit, can we go through debris fields like the Bible says about the hellfire and brimstones and all this sulfur dropping from the sky? This stuff is recorded in history, in biblical and ancient text. So again, we're just trying to wrap our head around what are they saying here? What's going on? And yeah, it took me 2 weeks to kind of put this together, thinking about it, looking at the dates. So anyways, the sinking of Atlantis to the middle of this period, or about 9600 BC, which would have been 2 added to that is 11,600 years ago, based on the knowledge of Solon, the 6th century BC Atlantean, brought back from Egypt. Southern India Talmud legends point almost exactly to that date, 9600 BC, for the first of 3 indentations, catastrophes that destroyed their legendary civilization. Comaria Candom, as described in Graham Hancock's book Underworld, The Mysterious Origins of Civilization. This masterful analysis of prehistory through legend and geology not only recounts that many flood myths and widespread folklore of declining civilizations around the world, but also illustrates that a number of time-sequenced geological maps how the irregular melting of the huge polar ice caps at the last ice age may have led to widespread floods and disasters. So we all know in the news they're talking about global warming, global cooling, climate change. And last Christmas, 2013, and Comet Ison coming through, and the government shut down, and the previous year, Comet Elenin came through, and Obama was in the underground city in complex in the Colorado area. Was he there because he was worried? Were they all prepared to go into the bunkers and not tell the rest of us? Just me asking questions, trying to figure out what's going on in the world. My point here, page 249, is not to make a case for the Great Deluge, but simply to remind the reader that besides the warning stellar influences that led to the decline of civilization from 11,500 BC through the Dark Ages, there are other well-documented terrestrial events that added to the decline. Now, there's been a lot of books published about this stuff. Zacharias Stitchens talks about Planet X. Videos, thousands of them on the internet, talk about Planet X. Herculumbus, the Destroyer, the Red Star, the Lost Star. My question is it real? Is there a threat? And is the government keeping it from us? And if it's not real, and somebody's sponsoring and promoting all this propaganda for public consumption, then we equally have a serious problem. Why would they do that over the last 60, 70 years? Why? So I thought we'd do a little review. Why in the 1970s would they publish a book called The Population Bomb? Paul Ehrlich, that's a overpopulation character there. Why would the Club of Rome, a Freemasonic, Freemasonry, Illuminati type of group, publish Limits to Growth? So I'm not above believing that they fabricated all this Planet X data for our consumption. You can go on the internet, put in Planet X or Nibiru images and find these websites. You can get all these pictures that they say that they have taken of this star that's coming. There's all kinds of videos on YouTube. You can go on one of the telescope websites and you can see they blacked out something that looks like there's something coming, a star behind there. Why would they black that out? People are taking pictures and saying they're seeing the second sun behind our sun. See it? Here's a dead giveaway. Look at this. See that thing with the horns up there? That other solar system? Does it not look like a red thing? They're painting it as a picture with horns or wings. So I thought I would look up the zodiac symbols a little bit. Why on the zodiac, here's all the different signs, Aries, Pisces, and everything. Why in the center do they have that sun with wings? Go on Zodiac Images and look it up. I saw that, I couldn't believe it. I think everybody knows how the zodiac works. Wherever the Earth is, there's the Earth right there in January. Then it's at night you can see the star system, Zodiac, Gemini. And as it travels this way into Cancer and Leo, there's the Earth there. You see the different systems. and they gave them names. They documented this stuff quite well. And they were able to predict history. Even the Mayans had their calendar. A lot of us know this stuff. So they say that something like this could be coming. And then we know last time when they had the Great Flood and the catastrophic events on Earth with Eric Van Daniken, down there they had all these caves where everybody went for safety during that period. And aliens or whoever they were that came to Earth in their ships, apparently the natives or whoever made these statues. And so there is something behind the scenes. And one of the rocks that I think Van Daniken saw or found looks like the pyramid and the all-seeing eye on the dollar bill. And there's a picture of the Pleiades star system below and some of the ancient language. Under a black light, you could see these colors. And again, to remind us all, in Van Daniken's book, there's some of the gold plates there. If anybody doesn't think that doesn't look like the pyramid, the all-seeing eye, and the snake, the reptilian peoples that supposedly have come to Earth. Chronicle of Ancakor, Carl Brugger, down there, West Brazil, Ecuador area in the mountains, Peru, found all the caves and cities underground. There's the language of the ancient peoples. And apparently after he published the book, he was killed in Brazil. The government wrote a book, report from Iron Mountain, saying they had to create all kind of catastrophic events, environmental issues. I'll read this here, I just flipped it open. Page 71. The alternate enemy, they have to create an alternate enemy, must imply a more immediate, tangible, directly felt threat of destruction. Look at the first paragraph on that page. Pause this and read it. In this respect, the possible substitute enemies noted earlier would be insufficient. One exception might be environmental pollution model if the danger to society is posed with genuinely imminent, the danger. Second paragraph I highlighted. So in 67 or wherever, the government hired a bunch of people to publish that book to convince everybody of how to propagandize the peoples of the planet to keep them under control with fake threats. And what are they doing in the meantime? They're building underground cities. Go look this book. Buy these books I show you. Harp, Jerry Smith, they got all these transmitters all over the country. We've gone over this many times. There's the one in Alaska. Is the Planet X threat a fake? Can they turn all those HARP systems on and magnetically make the Earth turn around? Just asking. Then they got remote viewers, the military, Tim Rifat, who could go leave their bodies and go forward and backward in time and report back to the government what they saw. What did they see? Here's David Morehouse's book on remote viewing, Psychic Warrior. There's plenty of other people that the government had trained to do this. So getting back to Lost Star, what do those psychic warriors see? Looming in our future, they're not telling us. Are we getting closer to the galactic center? Is there something that's supposed to be hitting Earth? I don't make these pictures, I just go on Planet X images. Nibiru images. Then the fake global warming. The scientists know this, it's all fake. They got ice core samples. They plotted graphs. They know there's regular cycles to the weather. This here is 11,000 BC, 1991. So this is now, and these are the past, the different areas of growth all over the world. Again, go on ice core samples, images on YouTube, and print out these pictures, download them, take them to the pharmacy, go get yourself a little library. That's what I did. So anyways, trying to get through this book. But the sun was now going so far away from the sweet influence. Are they talking about getting closer to the center of the galaxy? Of the grand center, that man's intuitional and mental capacities were quickly fading. So when we start pulling away from the galactic center, we go through the elliptic plane, south of the horizon on this thing, start pulling away, does man's mental capacities start to fade? Probably do a better job if you buy the book and read it, but you get the point. All of this compounded by the gaps that occurred as a result of floods and cataclysms over thousands of years, manifested as a lessening of the overall state of civilization. Anyways, the golden age of the Hopis and Mayans. I've been out to the Hopi reservation 2 years ago. It was an interesting experience. But according to the Hopi creation legend, the earth evolves through a progression of ages or worlds. The Hopi golden age is referred to the first world or world of perfection. So when you go through the orbit, let's say out here on one of these rings is Earth, where my finger is, and you go closer to that galactic center, and then below the elliptic plane, and come away 13,000 years, and then go through it again when you pop through the top, and then go towards it again for 13,000 years. Are each one of these periods a first world, and a second world, and a third world? And apparently we're going into the fifth world now, heading towards the elliptic plane and the galactic center now. We've come out of the Dark Ages, which were in the recent past 500 or 600 years ago. They're called the Dark Ages. The Hopis say we are now beginning to emerge from the fourth world of separation and into the fifth world of illumination. So we crossed through it during the Golden Age. We came away from the Golden Age and the Yuga cycle there they talk about. It's a Hindu thing, an Indian thing. Mayans had a calendar. So I'm trying to understand what's going on in the world today. Why would the government be supplying the post office, Social Security people with millions of bullets and guns? Why would they be building FEMA camps? Why would they pass legislation and security measures on the American people and the world's people? What kind of calamity do they think is coming? What's the plan here? With George Bush continuing to say over and over, New World Order, Henry Kissinger, even the Pope at the Vatican. Then after World War II with the 2 nuclear explosions, we had off the chart alien sightings. Were the aliens coming here to warn humanity? Have they told our government, but our government refuses to tell us? Just asking questions. The Mayans, on page 250, they too believed in ages or suns. A new age or world of fifth sun is to begin, according to their calendar, December 21, 2012, a time when humanity begins to awaken in consciousness. Okay, why are they sky spraying aluminum, barium, and strontium? Aluminum gives people Alzheimer's, doesn't it? It weakens. It destroys the human intelligent IQ. Harvard did a study, the university, that children who drink water in cities where they put fluoride in the water, which is an aluminum byproduct, the stuff that they're sky spraying, that the mental IQs were lower. So is somebody trying to prevent an awakening of our consciousness? Do they not want 6 billion people on planet Earth to wake up? Do they want to sky spray them? And they're poisoning all the water systems and crops. And in the news today, in the Ukraine, Monsanto's moving in there. If this isn't planned, I don't know what is. And taking over all the farmlands after they've overthrown the government. And apparently the World Bank has just loaned them $6 or $7 billion to buy up everything. And Monsanto and a couple other big companies that build farming equipment are going to start mass producing Monsanto foods, which are poisonous and destructive to the human system. Page 252. Sorry about me going on here. But it all ties together if you look at it right. Hopefully these mysteries will naturally start to reveal themselves as more people come to understand the power of the new paradigm and begin to analyze artifacts, ancient structures, and myths in this light. Without a doubt, it must have been a beautiful world when the ziggurats, those pyramids built all over the world down there in Tulum in Mexico, and the pyramids in Egypt, the ziggurats, terraced cities and hanging gardens of Mesopotamia, were in their glory when Stonehenge was perfectly aligned with a newly cut stone, and the locals actually knew that what the structure was used for. So apparently there were other entities on this planet thousands of years ago, and apparently at the last deluge flood, Noah's flood, the great cataclysmic event on Earth, they all scooted off in their spacecraft to their space bases, waited out the calamity on Earth, the mass destruction, and then they came back. Is that what happened? Or are they back now, the UFOs and aliens? Older and wiser. There are numerous indications that not only did ancient man apparently live a rich, full, meaningful life, he also lived a longer life. We can see this in the Chinese dynasty records and the Egyptian pharaoh list. The further back you go into the higher ages, the longer the reigns, and the closer you get to the dark ages, the shorter the apparent lifespan. It is almost a linear. Even Newton wrote about this in his archaic book, The Chronology of Ancient Kingdoms. So when you move closer to the galactic center, if we are in an orbit, does the human lifespan get longer? And when you move away from this thing, like I said, in a perpendicular orbit, not in a parallel orbit, because then you wouldn't move towards it or away from it, but an orbit going around, I suppose you could say, one of these bands, an orbit towards the galactic center and away from it, above and below the plane. So are they saying here that when we move away from it, our lifespans are shorter, and when we move towards it, our lifespans are longer? And again, are they sky spraying so that our lifespans are actually eliminated because they don't want 6 billion people to live much longer? It's expensive, maybe? The ancients had great reverence for the night sky. We all knew that. Newton goes on to document other ancient civilizations that all say their citizens lived to be hundreds of years old, and he was not even aware that halfway around the world the Chinese did the same. And where does that leave the Bible's account of Adam, Seth, and Methuselah, who reportedly lived 930 years, 912 years, and 969 years, respectively? To many of us it sounds preposterous, and especially so in Newton's age when the average lifespan was not much over 42 years, half the current rate. That's interesting. So my point to this book and this review, why I went through even 5 of them, is the news about Planet X, Nibiru, Hercules, the Destroyer, the Lost Star. Alright, it says here, page 266, Jesus in John 10:34 refers to this when he says, "Is it not written that ye are gods?" And again in John 4:12, "These things I do, ye shall do also greater things." He tells us we can move mountains and is continually reminding us of our divinity. But if we are gods and can do amazing things, why don't most of us realize it? So as I have said numerous times, whatever is going to happen, whatever the powers have planned, it's not so much what happens to us, but what we do about what happens to us. And people going crazy in the street and screaming or killing people for food and all of that, buying guns and mass slaughter everywhere is borderlines on insane. I think we're spiritual beings in biological bodies. And if we do believe this life is short, eternity in the spiritual body is forever. Alright, a few more photos here of this so-called Planet X coming, Nibiru. There's plenty of sites on the internet. I really suggest people look into it. Knowledge is power. Again, why would anybody go insane? And then you got an astronomer here, Mr. Harrington, who talked about it, discovered some facts, and then apparently he conveniently died. A lot of talk about that he was killed to shut him up. He talked about the real story of Planet X Nibiru. You can see the solar system and then that other body coming through. See the bottom where the name of this video is? See what else I want to review here. Hang on. I was thinking about the crop circles, and apparently created by entities, light beings, or aliens. And if there is some body coming through our solar system, that one looks like a snake. Are they telling us the Anunnaki are returning with their spaceships? Is it a... Look at this one here. Looks like the planet going through the elliptic plane. Some kind of plane there. So there's all kinds of interesting sources of material. Here's one that looks like it could be something describing orbits. So once you get a handle on what to think about, here's another one, a couple others that could have something to do with orbits. The one on the top here. This one here, the green one. Here's one that could be orbits, some kind of orbits of 2 solar systems. So again, my concern is, what do they know that they're not telling us? Why all the people making all the videos on YouTube, magazine articles? Fear-mongering or real threat? Anyways, thank you for watching my videos. I just wanted to put an extra effort into this lost star. What's going on? Why the shootings in France, which apparently recently appears to be yet another false flag, orchestrated by the government. Within hours later, they were passing legislation, having meetings to up the security on the French people. What's going on? Is all this some kind of behind-the-scenes preparation for some mass hysteria they think that's going to happen on planet Earth? Planet Nibiru? Who's responsible for all these investigations and scares and threats? Pictures and stuff by satellites of a planet coming with satellite, a sun coming with satellite planets orbiting around it. You can go on the internet and check this out yourself. Nibiru images. Go on YouTube, Nibiru, Planet X, videos. See for yourself. In the millions. So that's why it was so important for me to reiterate the information in this book. Does it have something to do with our increased spirituality? Humanity growing? Is this what they think is coming? And if something is coming, should we be told? Or should we wait? They say now there's a very kind of a crazy earth wobble. The earth is actually wobbling every day, noticeably, if you pay attention to the stars or the moon. Why on the French money do they have an orbit of our solar system and something from outside our orbit coming in? On French money. Nibiru near Earth orbit. Is this thing imminent? Is it coming now? Am I overdoing it on this video? If this is real, so where are they spotting it? They got videos on YouTube to tell you where you can look up, get your binoculars. They say there could be some gigantic electrical discharge and when it passes, and apparently it's 3 times the size of Earth. That would hurt right there, wouldn't it? If you were home in your living room and that kind of lightning happened. So where is this thing? Somebody's gone through a little work. Look at that way they describe that with the red ball with the wings. Go look up any of your horoscope signs, the zodiac, and look at the wing and the disc in the center. What's with that? All these videos. There's another video here. Apparently ancient writings talking about crazy stuff like this. I don't think you can read that. What is the orbit? Will it pass near Earth if it's coming? What will it do to our sun? Look at the size of the sun compared to Earth. A lot of people don't know that. Look how small the Earth is compared to the sun. If something was coming from the other side of the sun, could you see it? I hardly think so. It's like a gigantic tree in the way of your view. Here's another place where they say you can look up in the sky and where it might be coming from. I think it's for the system Leo. Infrared telescope, can they see this? Too bizarre to believe, you think? Real or fake? Again, if it's real, we should be told, in my opinion. If it's fake, why are they doing it? Why are they sky spraying us? Why are they building HARP systems? Can they simulate something like this and destroy the world's population? Is that the plan? Either way, it's a problem. But the documentation is all here. Go on the internet, Yahoo search, Planet X images, Nibiru, Soho. You can go look at the Soho thing online and look at the sun online any day you want. and pay attention and start to see some of the evidence that they show you. And apparently when you go down to the southern hemisphere, when the sun rises, it's shining on some body down there, not the moon. So some body, alternate planet or big sun, is behind the sun heading our way. Is that true? Nibiru. Is that true? Here's the galactic plane. More pictures people have posted on the internet. Several different views of this thing. Different telescopes. A comparison of size. Jupiter is much larger than Earth. And look how big they say Herculaneum is, Planet X. There's Jupiter with the rings there. Look at how small Earth is compared to Planet X. Nibiru, Herculaneum. The Destroyer. It's almost as big as our sun, it would seem. This Egyptian history written in stone. Were they warning us about this, the Mayans? Planet X and the mysterious death of Dr. Robert Harrington. So in this book review, it seems like a very important subject, that we need to find out why the fear-mongering, or why are they keeping it from us. Yowza.com, Planet X, the system update. Go on this website or go see this video. Listen to Marshall Masters yourself. Make up your own mind. YOWUSA.com. YOWUSA.com. Planet X system update, November 1. I just looked at a video this morning with the Zeta Talk. I said this earlier in this video. I'm looking at the TV right now. Newsletter issue 431, January 4, 2015, Zeta Talk, Z-E-T-A-T-A-L-K. That's pretty current, January 4th, 2015. So what do you think is up? Why all these thousands, millions of results when you search on the internet for this stuff? Thousands and thousands of videos on YouTube, thousands and thousands of websites, many books. To me, it seems like an important issue, an important question. And I'm doing these book reviews to try to open the door and enlighten people with what little bit that I've discovered about what they're trying to tell us is going to possibly happen immediately. And what happens when we orbit in one of the outer bands of the galaxy and we get closer to the galactic center, cross the elliptic plane, start to get away from it, reach a maximum southern orbit, 6,700 years later, then rise again, go back through the elliptic plane, 13,000 years, and start all over. 4 or 5, 6, 7 ages of humanity's past great societies, Atlantis, the Golden Ages, artifacts found in the ground from thousands of years old that nobody knows what they are. Then, of course, our solar system itself is interesting by itself. As you can see up there, we have very few rocks on the top of this around the sun and the planets, but once you go outside Pluto's range, you got quite a rock cloud called an Oort cloud out there. So if the whole solar system was going through the elliptic plane, or there was this body coming, and it were to crash into those rocks, I suppose a lot of that would cause us a lot of pain and suffering. Should we be told? Should we be concerned? Should you move away, as Nancy Leader says, should you move away from the coast? 200 feet up, 200 feet elevation, at least 100 miles from the coast, not near any volcanoes, Preferably not in any city. Here's some more pictures. Here's another, I think that's Pluto's orbit there. That's kind of different than the orbit of the other planets. And then there's the Oort cloud, and then that inside cloud, the Kuiper Belt, was apparently a planet at one time that got hit by something and smashed up into, as you can see, a gazillion pieces. Lots of galaxies out there. All those are galaxies, lots of them. Alright, so I think I'll wrap it up. You get the idea, I believe. We are in a... there has been throughout history reported these cataclysmic events. Apparently they are on some kind of cycle. And apparently they're trying to tell us now that it's looming. There's something like the Kuiper Belt. What if something came through our system and went through that rock debris field? And look at the rocks that we are in. Our solar system is in that big shell called the Oort cloud. If another solar system were coming through there, going to intersect our solar system, what kind of heck Hades would that cause? Thank you for watching my video. Give me a thumbs up if I made any sense. And may God help us all. This all seems kind of crazy.